except for Plan 9. That's the high deductible plan, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Plan B has the $4 copayment for value tiered, $8 for the non-branded generics, and $25 for branded generics and preferred medications. So that's not a change, just a reiteration of what that is. And I think you've got copies of it in your packets as well. But just depending on what you might have looked at already out on the OWEB website, I think everyone was on Plan B. That's why they're getting rid of the other options, because it really was what everyone chose anyway. The other thing I'll mention is on Plan 9, so that's the HSA. If you have the HSA, you're going to be on ODS Plan 9. The change to that is on the pharmacy is going to have a value tiered piece for the pharmacy, and they're going to process the claims a little bit differently, which we'll talk about in a minute. But those are really the only changes to the OWEB offering as it is. Does anyone have any questions about that before we dive into specific plans? Yes, Sharon.
If you're over 55, can you put extra in your HSA?
The question is, if you're over 55, can you put extra into your HSA? And yes, you can. There's what's called a catch-up period, and you can put in an additional $1,000 per year if you're over 55. And we'll get to the specifics of HSAs. We're going to kind of take these one at a time. So the first, there's really three options. There's I want coverage, and I really don't want to think about it too much. I just want to have your basic vanilla plan. In that case, you would pick one of the options, either the ODS Plan 5, 6, or 7. So that's going to be one option. I'm going to go through the variations of those benefits. The other two options are, I want to be on the HSA. I've either heard about it or I'm interested in it. That is where you take on more ownership of what you're doing. It's called a consumer-directed health plan because you're involved as a consumer. Someone was asking me about, well, I just really don't even have the time to look at these. If you don't have the time to really look at it, don't even consider the ODS Plan 9, because it really takes you to be engaged in the process, because there's some work attached to it. And then the other option is, I have a coverage through my spouse, I'm going to waive the plan, and then it would be, the HRA would be an option for you. So we're going to talk about each one of those separately. The HRA is where you're not on the district's health plan, and you have an account that's set up for you of money that you can use at a later date. Okay? All right, so starting with and does everyone have this in your packet so we can kind of reference it? So there's Plan 5, 6, and 7, and if you look at them, they're all very, very similar, except for when it comes to the deductible and whether or not there's a copayment. So pretty much these are insurance plans that say if you are sick or if you're in an accident, you're going to have coverage. You're going to be responsible for the first part of the deductible, and then the insurance company is going to pay the bulk of it until you get to the out-of-pocket maximum. Under all of these plans, referencing back to the preventive services, regardless of which plan I'm going to talk about, preventive services are covered under all these plans without deductible and without copayment or coinsurance, regardless of which plan. Again, that's back to the schedule. So that means, your annual women's exams, your mammograms, your well child care, your well baby care, after age 60, a routine colonoscopy. All those things are going to be paid for in full because it's on the schedule. No deductible, no coinsurance, no copayment. So that's regardless of which plan you pick. So as we're going through these, think about what your services were last year, what you think you might be using this year, to figure out which plan is the best for you. Because while we did have a lot of interest in the HSA plan, it's not for everybody. And we'll get to the specifics of why it might not be for you in a bit. So ODS Plan 5, you can see, I'm not going to go through every one of the benefits, but let's start going through from the top, working our way down. It's a $300 deductible. You can see it says combined in and out. So for each one of these benefits, you're going to get the richest benefit, or the least amount is going to be out of your pocket if you go to someone who is participating with the ODS network. It's most of the providers in this area. Certainly the network has not changed hugely from last year to this year. You have the option, you can go to any provider you want, but if you're going outside of the network, it's going to be this, after the slash is what your benefit's going to be. Okay, so you can see that under Plan 5, it's a $300 deductible, and your out-of-pocket maximum is $2,000 in network. If you go out of network, again, you can, but then it's going to be $4,000. So you're always, again, going to get the best benefit by going to an ODS provider. So as we mentioned, you could see that entire next section, preventive care, is all going to be paid at 100%, meaning no out-of-pocket for you, no deductible, no copayment, and that's across the board. You can look at all those plans. They all say the same thing. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Provider services. So this means when you go to the doctor's office. And an incentive office visit is going to be for a list of things that are, the incentive, it's trying to think of the list. I know you just took a bite of banana, sorry. But the things on the incentive list, it's Jesse, right?
On the incentives here, it's asthma, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart conditions, and something else.
Thank you. I kind of put you on the spot there. But that's anything that's in those categories, it's going to be a $10 copayment. If you go to your primary care physician for anything else, it's going to be a $25 copayment. So again, you see the little asterisk there, it means that there's no deductible. It's just going to be a copayment. If you go to a specialist, it's going to be a 20% copayment, and that's where your deductible, that is the first time you'll see your deductible, is if you go to a specialist. It will be subject to deductible and then paid at 20%. And you can see there's other things that have different copayments. For example, if you have a CAT scan or an MRI, you're going to pay a flat $100 copayment, and then the balance is going to be subject to the deductible and paid at and you will pay 20%. So it kind of, you can get how you can see the first section is participating, the second section is if you step outside of the network, and it's really either a flat dollar copayment or percentage. If it's a percentage, it's something that's subject to the deductible. Everything else, the flat dollars are going to be, I don't have a deductible, I'm going to pay a flat dollar. Under this plan, you have urgent care is going to be paid in full after a $50 copayment. You see that it has acupuncture, chiropractic, and naturopathic are all covered after a $25 copayment to a maximum annual benefit of $2,000. So all those are combined into one bucket. So if you want to use it all for chiropractic, you can, or all for acupuncture, you can. It's just a bucket of services for you to use.
Well, I'm sorry, where is that?
Where is the acupuncture?
Yeah, all that stuff that you just mentioned.
It's at the very, very bottom. If you look, it should be right under urgent care.
I don't see your second page.
Keep going. There you go. Okay. All right. So, and that's there, so that you can see that there's certain things like that. The acupuncture, chiropractic, and naturopathic is the same for a pot of money that you have to spend is the same, but how you get to that benefit is a little different depending on which benefit structure you pick. So does everyone kind of get how to read through these? Let's hop over to ODS Plan 6. And then we're just going to kind of let you read 7 on your own. But the Plan 6, so you can see the only real differences are your deductible goes from $300 to $400. your out-of-pocket goes up from $2,000 to $2,100. And you lose the co-payments at the office visit. It just goes to a vanilla insurance that says everything is subject to deductible and then paid at 80%. So you think about, again, what you had for services last year, what you expect to have services this year. If it's always preventive care, well, you know, it doesn't really matter which plan you go under, and you might want to think about the one that's the cheapest rate-wise. But if you have a lot of office visits or you see a specialist a lot, you know, that's where you can start dicing between the couple of options as to see which is going to be the best plan for you. The other one is Plan 7. You can see it's a $500 deductible. Again, the slightly ratchets up the out-of-pocket maximum. Preventive is all the same. But when you look at 6 and 7, I mean, they are virtually, if you go down, they're virtually the same except for that deductible. So, you know, for how much you save for that extra $100, you have to think about what you're spending for the premium. Okay? Plans 5, 6, and 7 all have the same pharmacy. And you want to hop to the pharmacy. So you can see how that works. And that is there's the value. So anything that's on the value list, and there's a list that's, I don't know if it's on this one or not, but anything that's on the value list is a $4 copayment. Any generic is $8. Anything that's on the list, which is the ODS preferred list, is going to be a $25 copayment. If it's a name brand and not on the list, it's going to be a 50% copayment, and that is subject to the out-of-pocket maximum, which is it $1,100, I think? Just a second here. Yes, thank you. $1,100. So slight nuances of difference, but certainly rates that vary. And Sharon, is the rate, are the rates in there as well? Rates are in at the bottom. Okay, excellent. So if you want to think about it as a, you know, consumer, so you look at, let's hop down to the rates and we'll see the variation and just between, okay, so look at plans 6 and 7, because you know that there's only $100 difference in the deductible. You could see the difference in the plan cost. It goes from the $1,253 to $1,142. That's to save $100 in a year. So perhaps not a good buy. Maybe it is. You know, I'm just wanting you to look at it that way. Look about, you know, 'cause some people will just say, well, I want the best. I want whatever is the best plan and is going to be the least out of pocket. Well, the days of when everything was paid in full, that was a good way to look at things. But as we all are spending money to beyond the Cadillac plans, you know, it really makes you start looking at the premium versus what I get for it in a little different way. Okay, so let's talk about ODS Plan 9. So the ones we've talked about up until now, you meet your deductible, off you go. You know, some things are a copayment, some things are at 20% that you're going to pay, and there's an out-of-pocket maximum, and then there's this pharmacy card that's attached to it. The HSA plan is back to, you heard me mention the consumer-directed health plan. It is really about engaging people in what you're spending, how you're spending it. That it's, I think that our insurance committee was talking about dollars spent is dollars spent. I mean, if you're spending dollars in the premium, it's money going out of your pocket. But if you're spending it out at the doctor's office, it's going out of your pocket as well. At the end of the day, it's still money that you have spent. So how can we best use the money that we have to spend? And that's when OEB and ODS started offering this ODS Plan 9, because it is an HSA compatible plan. And that is, HSA compatible is just that it complies with the guidelines